everybody. Welcome back to the Watchung Booksellers Podcast, where we bring you conversations from our independent bookstores' rich community of book professionals who talk about what they do for the love of books. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kathryn, and I'm here with my co-producer, Marnie. Hey, Marnie.
Hello.
And today we are talking about illustrating children's books.
That's right. Our guests today are Kristine Lombardi and Kat Min, who each come at the process differently, but share a deep love of picture books and have both been guests of Watchung Booksellers in the Kids' Room many times.
But before we get to the conversation, Marnie, are you reading anything good this week?
Well, I want to plug the book club at the Kids' Room, which is happening on April 23rd at 4 p.m. And the title is Zorgamazoo by Robert Paul Weston. And you can register in the store. It's $20 to join, and that comes with a copy of the book, and I believe they serve snacks.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
they'd love to have
cover.
you.
Cute.
Yeah.
Cute. And it won a bunch of awards, right?
Yeah. It won the E.B. White Read Aloud Honor and the Silver Birch Award.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's actually the reason why they're reading it is because it's Lily Brown Arnold's one of her favorites.
Oh,
so.
fantastic. Yeah. And I heard that Lily has another book in the works.
Yeah, pretty crazy. 2027.
Very exciting.
Yeah,
Very
so
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you reading, Kathryn?
I just started Heartwood by Amity Gage, and I will say I was almost reluctant to pick it up because I loved her last novel, Sea Wife, so much that I was just afraid that this would not hold up. And boy, am I wrong. It is so good. I'm just dipping into it right now because it actually just comes out today. But it's fantastic. It's about a woman who is hiking the Appalachian Trail and gets lost in Maine. It kind of reminds me of God of the Woods, which was out last year, Liz Moore, and has Northwoods vibes to it too because it's all about those crazy forests in Maine. And it's just beautiful. So you should swing by and pick up a copy. It's great.
Great. Well, let's get to Kristine and Kat's conversation. Kristine A. Lombardi has written and illustrated several books for children, including Lovey Bunny, Mr. Biddles, My Wish for the World, and The Grumpy Pets, which garnered an International Literacy Association Children's Choice selection. She loves quirky characters and tender stories, written with lots of heart. Her next book, Crouton, is coming from Random House in 2026. She lives and works in Montclair, New Jersey.
With her today is Kat Min. Kat is a Korean-American author, illustrator, animator, and twin mom. Kat grew up in Hong Kong, where she spent most of her childhood drawing and making comic books out of printer paper and staples with her best friend. She studied animation and film at NYU Tisch and went on to complete the illustration and visual storytelling summer residency program at the School of Visual Arts in New York. She is also a member of SCBWI, Women Who Draw, and the Society of Illustrators in New York. Her debut picture book, Shy Willow, was featured in the New York Times twice and translated into many different languages. She also has written The Little Toy Maker and, most recently, The Shadow and the Ghost.
Enjoy the conversation, and we'll be back after to fill you in on what's coming up in the store.
Hi, Kristine.
Hi, Kat. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you for the first time. My first time here at Watchung Booksellers was last year, promoting my third picture book.
Oh, okay.
It's called The Shadow and the Ghost. Yeah, it was really nice because it was story time and some art activity at the end. And then I remember this. It's about a shadow and a ghost, and all the lights went out for a second.
Oh, my God.
And they came back on, and it was like a perfect moment because it's like about a shadow and a ghost. So it was,
Was there a storm or?
I think there was, it was actually like a heavy rain like this, I think, on that day.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And then I had fun then. It was really nice meeting all the little kids.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm back here because it's so cozy. I want to just live here.
I started out in the other store when, they had the back room.
Yes. Okay.
So it's so different because, you had the little cozy little space, and now it's so big.
Oh. So it was cozier over there.
Yeah. Well, it's just so small, but it was just memorable. My first book, I was over there.
When was that?
2015.
Wow. That's
So just happy memories.
10 years ago.
I know. I can't believe it.
What's the title of
Lovey Bunny.
Lovey Bunny.
Yeah, my first book. And
oh, hey. So, okay, Lovey Bunny and Shy Willow, which is about a rabbit.
Oh.
So,
rabbits,
yeah.
Who doesn't love bunnies? Who doesn't love bunnies?
Yes.
Yes, so that was really sweet. And Margot, she's always been such a great person, helping out, and used to go to book events when I was at the museum and would help me sell books. So just, it's a great store, great people, and such a big part of the community. It's all I heard about when I moved here. So
when did you move here?
I moved here in 20 years ago.
20 years
I can't believe
ago.
it.
Wow.
I don't know where time goes, but yeah, 20 years.
Wow.
In a few months. So
that's amazing. I actually stalked your website before coming here, and then I saw your bio. It was saying that you were an art director.
Yep.
And then you decided to just stop and pursue this.
Yeah, not children's books right away, but I left my art director job to go into basically editorial illustration.
Got it. Okay.
And all different kinds. But yeah, I missed my salary.
Oh.
But I was really itching to get out. Like by the time I left, I was done.
Oh, okay.
And I really loved advertising. It was more promotions.
Right.
But I was on the Pepsi account for years, and that culture was so much fun.
Right. Really fast paced and
very fast, and we were just encouraged to have fun. So I remember getting paged one particular time to play foosball. We had a championship. So our agency, we had all these. Not mandatory, but we just had a blast. The Halloween costume contests were legendary.
Aww.
So sometimes it's hard to work alone compared to that.
That's true. Have you always so before you had that art director job, have you always in your mind wanted to pursue editorial illustration, or
it was bit by bit? I was doing some local work, and my boss at the time actually pulled me aside and said, "You're not happy here."
Really?
Yeah, and she said, "You really should become an illustrator because you're so happy when you're drawing." Like I was always drawing new business layouts, and it was really dry stuff. But she said, "You're so happy when you're doing that," and it got in my ear, and I just
got in your head.
Yeah, I couldn't let it go. And
she's right.
maybe 3 months later, I left. So
really, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't look back. And then children's books was always something I wanted to do. And I read that you went to SVA or had a residency.
Yes, just a summer residency.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
because I went there a lot for classes with Monica Wellington.
Oh, really? Like the continuing ed? Ugh,
back when they were in person, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So that was great, and that was just a great way to learn the ropes and keep submitting and all that.
Nice.
Did you do anything before you did this?
So I always liked to draw since I was a kid. But, it's one of those, what do I do with this? I like to draw, but what do I do?
Right.
How do I make this into a career or whatever? But I liked animation too. So I decided to study that in college. And then I actually ended up doing motion graphic stuff
cool.
after graduating college. But still pretty dry.
Yeah.
It wasn't... it was more like ad stuff too. Same.
Yeah.
And what happened was I worked there for around 2 years, and then I got sick.
Oh.
I got sick. I had to remove a tumor
Oh my gosh.
from my lower intestine.
Oh,
it was
geez.
growing like this. Yeah. And then thankfully it was not cancerous or anything.
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, I'm just going to quit, kind of recover a bit, take a rest. And then when I came back to being healthy again, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, I wanted to always do illustration. I know I like to draw. I think I want to do children's books, but I don't know exactly. I remember, though, when I was in college, I came across Sean Tan's The Red Tree.
Beautiful.
Oh, my God, I love that
Beautiful book.
So that was the book that was kind of like, oh, this is what picture books can be like. It's like, this is something that I have not seen before. It's a very complex concept done in such a simple and beautiful way. It's like, I want to do something like this.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think that thought was in me, but it was just in me though, but not like this not sure if I would be able to do it, you know. It would have been great if I could, but then just in my head, right? And then, so at that moment, I was like, okay, since that was something that, you know, made me interested in children's book illustration, I'll just slowly start there. And I applied for the SVA summer residency that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got in. I was like, okay, great. So just from there, just step by step. It was not like this is what I'm gonna do, and
Right.
these are all the plans that I have. You know, I have all these plans set forth for me. It was just like one by one, like, okay, I'm doing this now. So what's gonna be next? I'm like thinking. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this, and then I ended up finding my agent. And then a full year of rejections.
Oh, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah. And then really, just kind of timing and everything. Arthur Levine, he had contacted me and he was like, hey, I saw your work and I want to publish it with LQ. That was the year he was just starting up LQ.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, great. You know, because
Okay.
I thought that was Shy Willow, my debut picture book. I thought I had to just like put it, you know, in the back room and like never see it again. But he was like, actually, I want to publish it. So
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So it was just like timing of everything
Yeah.
then was really great.
Everything lined up.
Just kept, yeah. So even now I'm just like, you know, my agent is like, do you have anything else you want to submit? I'm like, sure. You know, let me see. So it's just like my agent's also kind of like the person who's kind of pushing me,
Yeah.
like very gentle,
Right.
very gentle. But like I you know, I appreciate that because she's making sure I'm not like, you know, being lazy. Yeah, but just very thankful for all the opportunities that's been coming my way, like little by little. Sometimes planned, sometimes not planned, and I just love meeting kid-lit people, like booksellers, illustrators, authors. When I go to like those book festivals and events, it's just like, oh wow, like this is like a whole different kind of community,
Right.
and it's like
Really fun people.
really fun people, and just felt like, oh, this is where my people were.
Mm.
Kind of. It feels funny though, because it's like a lot of them are very outgoing, and I'm not very outgoing, so I get a little bit like, ooh, you know. But you know, they're just very welcoming. And then when I met Lauren Long at one event, and then he was very just very good. Like he was just like, oh, and sharing how he feels about the kidlit community, and like, you know, you're gonna love it, and like I'm still doing it. I feel like you're probably gonna keep doing it, and yeah, almost every person that I've met said only good things. And
Yeah, it's definitely a nice group of people and nice booksellers, editors.
Yeah. Do you have any like story of like a great like encounter with that you still think about?
I mean, I've had some fortuitous moments, but yeah, for me, starting out, I wasn't intending to write.
Okay.
So that sort of evolved. I was illustrating and I was really trying to get my work into, you know, the children's world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I'd be working with publishers and I'd say, can't you pass my work along?
Okay.
And then finally one day I came up with this character and I had just signed with an agent and he got it in front of somebody at Abrams and they said, well, does she have a story to go with this? And
Nice.
I found a story to go with it.
Awesome.
I
Wow.
wasn't going to miss that one.
Nice.
But now I really love writing. I think I like it more than illustrating.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of,
Nice.
I feel like I have a lot of ideas and I just keep, I wouldn't say churning them out. It takes me forever
Right.
to craft the right manuscript. But I find myself always scribbling in my notebook with all these little
It's like
random ideas.
You enjoy
I really do.
doing that, yeah.
I really do. I think of like these random things when I'm driving, and so I always keep a
Mhm.
notebook with me. And but I've only illustrated one story that wasn't my own, and
Okay.
I think I'd prefer just to do everything.
Oh, the story and the art.
Yeah,
How was that? Because I recently actually did that too. How was your experience with that? Like,
it was just a very, very long process,
Okay.
and I think generally in publishing they keep the illustrator and the author separate.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why, but at the same time, like I wish, because I remember, I forgot who told me this, but it's like long, long, long ago. They would just, the editor, art director, illustrator, author, like the writer, and everyone would just be in one table and like just like kind of like very flexible.
Yeah.
Like just, discussing at a table together. It used to be like that, I heard. But now it's just very like separate and separate. And like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, I think it kind of backfires sometimes because they wait until the very end to share your art. I mean, they choose you for a certain style,
Right.
and I believe they share that with the author. But then as the book evolves and you work on it forever.
Yes.
And then they see it and they say, oh, well, I was really envisioning this. So it's sort of, for me, it seems like extra steps in an already long process.
Yes. Okay.
So, and then this particular book came out during the pandemic.
Oh. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was a real bummer, but it was, I enjoyed working on it. It was a lot of work. I did it in watercolor. And
Wow.
so it was just
Everything.
Wow.
Okay.
And, composed it digitally, but it was just very, very long. So when I'm writing, I think like in illustrators, I think in pictures, and sometimes I don't even have the words.
Right.
So I draw everything out, and then I work backwards, and then I add the words in.
I do that too. Exactly. Yes. It's like, it's very like water almost. Kind of like you're doing a drawing, you're like, and then like words pop. Oh, so here, this kind of text is gonna go here. Then like in the other spreads, you kind of skip the pages and you're okay, around here, this is what the spread is gonna look like. And then do I want words there, or is it gonna be a wordless spread? And like that, you have to make the decision too.
Yeah.
And then it's like you making that decision, and also your editor and art director, right? So it's a
long process.
It's a long but fun
But
process.
But yeah, it's amazing how, like the book that I'm working on currently, I think there were 5 dummies before it was even acquired.
Wow.
And then there were another 2 rounds of dummies for the publisher.
Okay.
And I'm, pretty much delivering final art now.
Wow.
And I imagine there'll be revisions. So it's just, you have to really love what you do.
Yes.
Because it'll make you crazy.
I think so. And it's like you have to also like, so in the dummy process, after it's been acquired, you're still working on the dummy. Some pages and spreads are approved. So you're like, okay, I'm going to work on the final art right now. So I don't, rush all of it at the end.
Yeah.
So you're like still revising the dummy, but also working on the final art for those. So yeah, it's like you're kind of figuring it out. And I feel like I haven't done like a whole bunch of books like you did.
No, you've done a lot.
But it's like, I think like every book, like every project is so different, like how it's done. So it's like an adventure, but at the same time, you have to be really like prepared for it. And like, whatever comes, just be ready to,
Yeah, and you can't always control the timing. Like, and I think, going from advertising to this, it's polar opposites, because advertising is get it done, churn it out, crank it out. And when there's a deadline, they mean it. It has to go, back when I worked on Pepsi, graphics had to go to an ice rink to be installed at a certain time. And then with publishing, they'll say, oh, it's due March 1st, but you really have till May.
More, yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I planned a trip. What do I do about that? So it takes a while to get used to the timing thing. It's very drawn out. But you want it to be the best it can be. So just ride that wave, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like I was telling you, I illustrated my first picture book that I did not write just recently, and that's coming out this September. It's called Bear in the Air by Alison Warsh.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's such a cute story.
She was an editor, right?
I'm not completely sure.
The name is familiar.
Yes, Alison Warsh. And for me, it was a very smooth process because they completely put trust in me. They weren't very like, oh, but we don't want this and this. And they were just like,
that's great.
They were very just like, gave me the freedom. So I was like, oh, this is actually not too bad, And like, I really enjoyed doing it because the story too was just really cute. And I do realize just like personally, when working on a picture book, I I guess it's easier when you get to revise the text and the images at the same time. Because sometimes like, oh, but this part, it would be so good if the text was not there.
Right.
And it's just like a wordless, moment.
Post-it notes come in handy.
Exactly. Yes.
I have thousands of Post-it notes.
You use Post-it notes. Nice. Yeah.
Because, when you're moving the text around, sometimes if you draw, a letter right onto the paper dummy, if you have a paper dummy. I'm old school, but, and I'm old. But, but if you do that, it's like, oh, erase this. So I just sometimes move Post-it notes around, but there's probably 15 dummies by the time I'm done.
Yeah.
So I don't always print them out.
Yeah.
Just keep the JPEGs in a folder and switch them out. Version 2, version 8.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And like sometimes you're like, which version was this? Okay, I'm just going to put today's date on it.
I know. And I used to try to sit down and just write out the manuscript in Word, and it just never works.
Yeah.
It's always off a page or two, or something needs to be cut. So I just find drawing it out.
Yeah, so much better.
easier.
Yeah. I remember just feeling when I print out the pages, or if I actually draw it on physical paper and put them together, like staple it down the edges, and you get to actually turn the pages, in your hands. Then it feels more, I don't know, like it's
A real book.
A real book.
Yeah,
and
the page turns are important.
Yeah, and it's like the reveal, It's like, oh yes, this is exactly how I want it to work, So it's like it's nice to do it the old school way. I think because sometimes I get so dependent on my iPad and the Procreate.
Yep,
it's so easy to just like quickly sketch it out on the iPad and then put it all in a PDF and then like click, and it's like but it's like different.
It is different, yeah.
I
have to mock it up. I have to actually hold a little book in my hands and look at how it, the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
But I just read about somebody today that he's a traditional illustrator, and he just said, what am I doing? I mean, it was making me think of how I work. He said, I have thousands of these little drawings that I scan into the computer, and it's such a mess, and cleaning up the drawings and then layering them. And he said, I finally just started working in Procreate. And I was thinking, I might have to think about this.
Like, I think what's really great is if you do work on Procreate, you can just print that out, like whatever you draw, like print it out, and then put them in a like staple those together.
Oh, okay.
And then do that.
Okay.
So that might be.
I have to learn it one day. I mean, I can't handle any more devices right now. So getting an iPad Pro, it's just another thing to keep charged. I'm going to have to get a special room for charging devices.
I wanted to ask you, because you've been in this industry for so long, like you've seen how it's kind of like evolved over the years. What are your thoughts on like where it's now? And
I mean, it's really hard to tell. Like I try to keep up on things, and I always read Publishers Weekly to see what's coming out.
Yes.
And I go to bookstores a lot, and I go to the library. But it's really hard to get a handle on the business, like where the business is going. I know, at least my publisher said the pandemic was good as far as books.
Okay.
But I feel like some things have changed, and there's less meetings in person. I used to always go into New York and meet with my editors, but that's kind of stopped. And now everything is email or a Teams meeting. So I kind of miss, I think that's probably one of the drawbacks of the job is just it's a little too isolating. Like my friends and I talk about this a lot. It's just a lot of time alone, which I think you need as a creative person. But I miss the classes at SVA. They're all online now.
Really? And really none of them are?
No. Oh, wow. I mean, I'm sure some are, but, I would love to just go back and just be in that class environment. Because, we used to put our work up on the wall, and it would really push you to
you meet
develop.
other artists.
And we would go out and have cocktails after.
That's the fun part.
that whole social part. But shout out to Yaka. I have a little writing group that. And we haven't met in a while. But we all met at SVA and just kept it going for years. And
nice.
I'll bounce an idea off of them. But I think that's important to have community and other people that share the interest, the same things.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably met a lot of people in your residency.
Yes, I actually felt that really strongly when I was at the SVA summer residency, because we were all sharing the same interests, and we were all like just really passionate about what we were gonna do, and like all these like the projects that we had to do. Like we were all in that room, sometimes like quietly just like drawing and like, or sometimes discussing with each other, and then like and I remember feeling very like, oh, I like this, like this is where I belong. I think that was the first time I felt that, like, oh, I belong here.
That's great.
Because I felt I've always felt very like kind of not part of like a certain community. I don't know if that makes any sense. Because even like I'm Korean American, but when I'm with my Korean friends, I still feel a little bit not completely part of it. Maybe because I grew up in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Hong Kong. My parents are Korean, but I grew up in Hong Kong.
That's so cool. My whole family's been there. I've never been. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun place, and it's like I think for me, growing up in Hong Kong was a very interesting experience and interesting childhood, because on TV everything is in Mandarin or Cantonese. At home, my parents are talking in Korean. At school, kids are talking in English. It's like British English, and sometimes American English, and like sometimes all these other languages. So I grew up more of a comic book reader, like reading Japanese manga, Korean manhwa, and like sometimes like a real book, I guess, my favorite, my favorite children's book author is Roald Dahl, and his book Matilda. That's always been my favorite. And I was going to say, right now I'm currently rereading Matilda.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And it's just like reading it again after many years of not having read it. I was like, oh, this is what happened? I didn't know this happened, So
it's funny as an adult.
Yeah, it's like I completely missed this part.
Right. I reread Charlotte's Web and I was crying like a baby.
Really?
Oh my God, what a beautiful book. But yeah, it's good to look back at those, especially when now you're a kidlit creator, so it's you read it with a different lens.
Yes.
And
yes. The books that you've read like when you were a child, I feel like you always like revisit them, because like that's the first time you feel that kind of like magic, I guess, when you read a book. Yeah, so I've been so like nostalgic about my childhood like lately, in the past few years, just like always looking back at like old books that I read or like movies that I watched, and like sometimes I'm like, oh, that would not pass right now.
Oh, I know. My friends
that would be really problematic right now. Sometimes.
There's so many books that today would not fly.
Exactly.
For a lot of reasons. But I was obsessed with staying up late. So my favorite books as a kid all revolved around sleepovers. Staying up all night.
Did you do a lot of sleepovers when you were
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did, but I usually came crawling back home. In the early hours, because something scared me. I had a neighbor who her parents were big antique collectors.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I said, Can you go downstairs and get me a glass of water? And she said, you go. And I went downstairs, and there's this giant suit of armor in the foyer.
Oh my goodness.
And I had a conniption because, he's sitting there with the big, I don't know if it's a sword.
Scary. That's really scary.
And I called my parents. I said, I want to come home. I'm sure they had many a night ruined by my cowardice. Did you have a favorite book or type of book?
So Matilda, that was my favorite book. And then I think I read so many comic books, and it's funny because I'm going to be doing this panel talk at TCNJ, and it's like basically about visual text, like picture books, graphic novels, and like how if we ever experienced shaming in liking graphic novels or like picture books, things like that. So I think kind of experienced that, where it's like I love comic books, but like some
why
I just like grow up, but like as an adult too, still liking.
That's terrible.
It's funny because I don't think there's a lot of that here in the States. But like I guess just like maybe it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It could, I don't know.
Oh, my friend reads, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but she's older than you. I know that. And she reads tons of graphic novels.
Yeah.
I mean, just,
Yeah.
she says she gets like, I mean, it's crazy. She reads like 40 a month of these comics. She's Japanese. So
okay.
I'm not sure if they're Japanese. I think they are. I think they're in her native language, but she loves them. And she'll tell me, oh, I read the whole weekend, this whole series.
Yes.
It inspires me because I would just love to make time to read more.
Right.
In any form.
Right. Yes. I still read those Japanese comic books. Now they're called graphic novels, but yeah.
The work is beautiful.
It's
I'm
so
amazed.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it's just, if I had all that time, I would love to.
Really?
But it's like to do my own, but it's just.
You should.
Yeah. I have twin boys.
That's a lot. Yeah.
They're 7.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, maybe when they're older.
Do they inspire you?
So they do. But it's so funny because so many times I've thought maybe I should do a book with like twins, like a twin character. But sometimes I feel like I'm just forcing it out instead of really caring about the story. It's like just because I'm a mom to twins, I don't want to. I'm like sort of a rebel too. It's like I don't want to do a book just because I have twins, Right. But yeah, I do feel like somewhere down the road I will be doing a picture book or a graphic novel about raising twins maybe.
Yeah. Even if it's not literal, but you could probably take so many of your experiences. Or I know there's an author that I heard her talk once, and she said she eavesdrops on what her kids say. And sometimes during the summer, I do that at the pool.
That is so
because
funny.
These kids say the funniest things, and
they do.
I love summer, and I love sometimes when I'm in the pool, I hear them competing with each other, which cracks me up. Like a bunch of brothers. And they'll say, I just held my breath underwater for 30 seconds. Oh, yeah? I was under there for 3 minutes. I'm looking at them like, do you really believe yourself? But it's adorable. And they just one-up each other. And just some of the things they say are, I mean, I imagine you would be entertained all the time.
Yes. It's so funny because sometimes like a few weeks ago, one of my twins, he started to draw eggs, and then he wrote crazy egg, and then wonder egg, and then baby egg, and like all these like really, really just like random named eggs. And I'm like, and he was like reading it out, and he was like having so much fun, and I was just like, maybe I should do a picture book on eggs.
Yeah.
But it's
and
just
you could talk about how they're $75 a piece.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
By the time the book
now,
comes out.
yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness.
Insanity. Yeah, you should keep a log of all these ideas.
If
you don't already.
I do keep. They like to doodle, so I keep their doodles. Put them all on the fridge, and if there's no room on the fridge, I kind of put them in a drawer, and then maybe they'll come in handy.
I feel like if last year I was in a terrible rut as far as couldn't really come up with any ideas. I was really just annoyed. And but it's funny, I can go through my old notebooks and mine ideas and say, well, at least I had this in 2019. Let me see what I can do with it, or random facts I hear on the radio or something. But I just think it's good to document it because I always think I'm going to remember some random thought I had in the car and I will forget it. So but now I've learned that you can say, hey, Siri, take a note for me.
Really? I've never used Siri.
It really works. Like the other day I was driving and there's no way I could, take the time to pull over. And I just said, hey, Siri. And she's like, yes. And I said, will you record this note for me? And she read it back. And I said, yes, that's it.
Wow.
So technology can be a good thing.
So what do you do? Like when you go through that kind of like block, like,
cry a lot. No, I mean, it was terrible. I've never had a block quite like that. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything. And I literally packed up my art supplies. I packed everything up.
And like put it away?
Yep. Put it in a giant like Tupperware, whatever it is, one of those bins.
Really?
Yeah, because the book wasn't starting. The book I'm working on now, they acquired it back in April, but just through a lot of different reasons, it didn't start until mid-fall.
Okay.
So I had all this time to create, but I just couldn't get started on the book, and I couldn't seem to figure out what I was going to do, creatively. So I just sort of wrote it out because you can't force it.
Right, yeah.
And so I would read a lot, and I would look through old ideas, and I would experiment with illustration, but just nothing just with my pencil,
Right,
but
right.
I didn't want to draw anymore, and I didn't really feel like the writing was flowing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went to the pool a lot. Luckily it was summer.
Okay, yeah.
Went to the pool and saw friends and went to the beach.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you just have to do something else completely.
I think so. I think
yeah.
I try to push too hard, and then it's like when you finally give up and just say, all right, I'm taking a break.
Mm.
Then things start to flow. Like now I feel like I have all these ideas, and
Yes.
I don't know when I'm going to do them all. But
Yeah.
or I'll hear a random tidbit. Like I just heard recently that a shrimp, it's absurd, but a shrimp has, like, their little brain is right next to their heart.
Oh.
So I thought, wow, that could be a story, like something about, I don't know, the heart and the mind, choosing between the two. It might be a little,
in love, two shrimps in love.
because
And there's perfect because they kind of look like this.
I know, and I drew them out, and they're sort of intertwined, these little shrimp. But there might be a shrimp romance book on the horizon.
I
You never
love that.
know.
I love that. This is so random. Now that we're talking about picture books again, there's this book that I'm looking forward to. I'm not sure if it's out yet. It's called Miss Taco by Eliza Kinks. It's
Miss
like
Taco.
it's like you make a mistake and you put it in a taco.
Oh,
And that's the concept of it. So I'm like, I really want to get that book.
that's great. I know. I love
Sounds like a
anything
great
with a
book.
little twist.
Yeah. Is there any books that you're looking forward to? Like,
So many. I got a bag of books at the library today. So,
nice.
and it's funny. They have a whole section of foreign books.
Okay.
So I can't really read them, but I can admire them and look at them. And I love what different countries put out. It's so different.
Right. Yeah.
The color palettes are different,
Yes.
and it's very evolved. It's really beautiful
Yeah.
work. I hope I say this right. I think it's Danielle Sosa. She
Okay.
wrote a book called Friends.
Okay.
Oh my God, it was just adorable. It was very touching. And one thing I try to do, not just with kidlit creators, but if I read a book that just touches me, I will reach out to the author. And I'll send them a little note.
That's so nice.
Because I think everybody needs to hear that. You might assume, like, oh, they have 80,000 followers. I'm sure they get tons of mail. But if it means something to you, it takes a minute to write somebody an email.
That's so nice.
I try to do that because I just think it's important. It's, I don't know. Because we do this, we know how much work goes into it. I know I was guilty of looking at books when I was, before I ever did a book, and I said, oh my God, I could do this. This is so easy.
Yeah.
But sometimes the simplest things take the longest.
Right. Yes.
So, or there's a beautiful message, and I sometimes read reviews on books that came out, that I just discovered.
Right.
And I often disagree with some of the hard-nosed reviewers.
Yeah.
And I think they missed the boat, they didn't get the message.
Okay.
And so then I really feel compelled to write the author and say, this is beautiful. Like, I know what you were doing. And
nice.
it's just.
That's so nice. That's such a nice gesture. Because whenever I receive those kind of messages, I get so happy.
Yeah.
Just
because
makes my day.
You put your heart and soul into something, and you just
Yeah.
want somebody to understand it. I mean, I once had a reviewer completely missed the mark. I guess it was Mr. Biddles. She said something like, I left out the reason Hobson the lobster, how he got to the door. And I did explain that.
Right.
So I thought, oh my God, you reviewed my book and you didn't really read it.
Really?
Yeah, so that was a little bit, that bothered me.
Wow.
Not to dwell on anything negative. I'm over it. I mean, that
Okay.
was many years ago.
No. Yeah. It's still any kind of like review about like your own book that kind of that's not very positive. It's always going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they have to find something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I don't know. I feel like I take rejection and reviews fairly well.
Fairly well. Okay.
Because everybody. everybody has an opinion.
Do you have like a constant community that you are checking up on, like your own kind of like circle of like illustrators and authors? I know because you mentioned being feeling very isolating.
Yeah, my friends, I have a core group of friends that we check in, but I've been bad about getting everybody together. I'm sort of the ringleader. Same. Yeah. And it's just been increasingly difficult to get into New York. Montclair is a commuter town, but ever since DeCamp went under, I just find it frustrating to go in. There's limited service, and I know everybody takes the train, but there's nowhere to park, and I just feel like it's an extra step, and I need to resume our meetings, because it's nice to talk shop, and so I definitely need to do that.
Yeah. And I wanted to also mention how I appreciate when like booksellers invite multiple authors together or illustrators together for like a panel talk. There was this one time, Cronin and Doreen, we were doing a panel talk, and I think 2 people showed up for our panel talk. This was at Books of Wonder in New York City. But we had such a great time because we were just like, with those 2, audience members. We were just like, chatting with each other, like, talking about picture books and like, sharing the shared passion. And I just appreciate those events because those are the moments you get to meet other Kidlit people. It's like, it's so hard to set up a time and like, hey, let's go grab coffee. It's like you say you would, but it's like so hard. Are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, I'm just finishing up a book called Crouton. So I'm delivering final art right now, and that comes out next spring.
Awesome. 1 year from now.
It's about a little shelter cat.
Really?
But I flipped the narrative, so it's really the cat thinks she's doing the adopting.
Really? Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and it's based on my little boo, who I lost last year.
Oh.
But she was just a remarkable little cat and made such an impact on my life, and I'm really big on animal adoption, so it was a joy to write.
Nice. I love that.
Thank you.
So it is time to go.
It's time to go. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
It was really nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you too. You're a sweetheart.
Thank you, Kat and Kristine, for being on the podcast and for all your beautiful work. We can't wait to see what you come up with next. Listeners, be sure to pick up their books in the kids' room at Watchung Booksellers. You can also find links to their books and all the books they've talked about in our show notes and at watchungbooksellers.com. Also, don't forget to sign up for our new Kids Room newsletter to keep up with all the kid-related events.
We're really excited for our spring events. This Thursday, April 3rd, Chris Bojalian will talk about his new book, The Jackal's Mistress, with Christina Baker Klein at the Montclair Public Library.
And next Wednesday, April 9th, Noam Sandweisbach and Reverend Liz Theo-Harris will talk about their inspiring book, You Only Get What You're Organized to Take, Lessons from the Movement to End Poverty. That event will be held at Benai Cachette at 7 o'clock.
And we're so excited to share that the Watchung Booksellers podcast will be hosting a live book club with Alice Elliott Dark and Dagmar Dominchuk to talk about Loved and Missed by Susie Boyd. This is a book we've all been talking about and hand-selling like crazy, and it seems like everyone is just enamored with it. So Alice and Dag will start the discussion and then open it up to the community to discuss. Tickets are on sale now, and the book is available in the store. Come prepared to share.
You can find out details and register for all of our events in our newsletter, show notes, or at watchungbooksellers.com.
The Watchung Booksellers podcast is produced by Kathryn Counsell and Marnie Jessup, and is recorded at Watchung Booksellers in Montclair, New Jersey. The show is edited by Kathryn Counsell, and original music is composed and performed by Violet Mujica. Art and design and social media by Evelyn Moulton. Research and show notes by Caroline Shurtleff. Thank you to the staff at Watchung Booksellers and the Kids Room for all their hard work and love of books.
And thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, please like, follow, and share it. You can follow us on social media at Watchung Booksellers. And if you have any questions or ideas, you can reach us at wbpodcast@watchungbooksellers.com.
We'll see you next time. Until then, for the love of books, keep reading.